Hello, good day, smart investors, realtors, friends and families, colleagues all around the world. My name is Mr. Raphael Heisemen, CEO, Redoms and Properties. Today, I will be discussing with you the types of land titles in Nigeria and as well as some of the documents required for land purchase. The first thing that you must note is that every land is owned by the state government in accordance with the Land Use Act of 1978. In which the government leases any land purchased for a period of 99 years. So if you have a land that has a CFO, it's like a lease from the government. The government is leasing the land for a period of 99 years, but from 1978 up till now. So let's say if you happen to be one of the first subscribers, you have probably used such land for about 45 years, and which means you have a long time to go. So after which can then be renewed. So it is important for anyone seeking to purchase real estate to search the title of such property at appropriate land registry in every state. Um, each state maintains a land registry where the title um, to property can be searched. Um, for instance, in Lagos State, you have to go to the Land Bureau at Alausa Ikeja in Lagos State, the Land Bureau. So, because you have to know that a diligent search for the title can also involve search of a court registry where the title to land involves court judgment. So, we'll also be getting there. And also, so you have to do diligent search properly for you to know the title of the land that you are buying, just to be sure. There are two types of acquisitions, which you must know. There's a committed acquisition and there's a global acquisition. Now, the committed acquisition here, the committed acquisition here, the land has a registered interest by the government for slated purposes. When the survey tells you that the land is committed, it simply means this particular portion of land, the government already has a purpose for it. For instance, um, one of the basic necessities that the government needs to provide for its citizen is a good road, um, hospitals, police stations, stadium, recreation centers, drainages. So for every location, the government has already mapped out all these portions they want to use in building for these purposes. So under the land registry, it's there. Under the coordinate, once they put in the coordinate, it's already obvious that this particular portion is where the hospital is going to be. This particular portion is where the public schools is going to be. The police stations, which are basic necessities by the government. So and so on and so on and so on. So if you now purchase such land, perfecting such documentation becomes very problematic, because once you take it to the land bureau, take it to the necessary uh, um, department for the processing, as soon as they put in the coordinates of that land, they know, so they can't process it. So they continue to just, some of them won't even tell you. It takes time. They will even collect your money. But one thing they know is that land will never ever be approved for you. So you have to be wise. And when you now, the second part is the global, or we can also call it non-committed acquisition. So you can just say global acquisition. It's just lands that have been acquired long ago also by the government. Because like I said, every land is owned by the government. So these lands have been acquired long ago. So now they just like, fine, we no longer have use for this thing. So that's when they now like return it back. So if the such let's say the family owners now sells such land to you, it becomes easy. It becomes easy for you to now process, because now it's now free. So there's a process called ratification as well. So when these land owners, they go to the government, they now do ratification for them. So the land now becomes free. Now becomes free. So that's when we now come into all the title documents from here, and that process, it now becomes excision. From the excision, gazette, the CFO, the government consent. Let's talk about excision and gazette. So when you hear the word excision, what does it mean? simply means a government has released a parcel of land. Like I was explaining earlier, they release this parcel of land which has been under the global acquisition. It's a non-committed. When the land is committed, trust me, the government can never release it. But there are some that non-committed, which means they are still thinking, what can I do? So at the time they felt that no, we might not have a need for it, so they can just do a ratification and release it. And during that process, that is when they give excision when a land has been excised. So such land is easier to now process the title document up to the tone of CFO. So when you are interested in such land, you can process the government approved excision, and documentation for the land to be processed up to the governor's consent level, like I said. So, but I've been hearing Gazette, like what is Gazette? It's just an official record. Because after a land has been excised, there is an official record by the government to now show that every time they go to that particular record, like a file, they find once they put in that excision file number there, they're like, no, this has been properly filed. So that's just it. Just to spell out all the details, how the expanse of land, the areas, the meters. It's there that has been excised and given back either to the community or back to the family owners who has owned it for several years ago. So under that particular document we're talking about, that is when you now find the name of the community there, the details, like I said, of the expanse of land that was excised, the excision document number, and the rest of it. So with Gazette, a person can now apply for the CFO, which is the certificate of occupancy, or even just do a government consent. So I'm going to be explaining. So some of us have been hearing of CFO, government consent. I'll be telling you more about the CFO and as well the government's consent. So the CFO is just, like I said, just an acronym for certificate of occupancy. It's what occupancy, occupied. You have been given certificate to occupy this particular land. It doesn't matter the size. It could be as small as 100 square meter, and it could be as big as 100,000 square meter. So in as much as the land, this portion of land we are talking about, is under global acquisition. So it's just like an authorized document that grants the issue that the state government grants you. They grant an individual. You can even process under the company like an entity. You can process a CFO as an entity like a company. That's why sometimes you hear global CFO. You can also process a CFO like as an individual. So like that. So it's just like to confer ownership and the right of occupancy in definite land for all purposes for a term not exceeding 99 years. I mentioned it from the beginning of this video that a certificate of occupancy lasts for a total of 99 years. So don't be afraid. If you can obtain your own now, I'm very sure if you put 99 plus your age, you should know that it is your children that will eventually pay the renewal to the government. And whatever the government now decide, then the law changes from time to time. So from time to time, law changes. So it's just like a document, and it's only issued once. That's another thing about certificate of occupancy that some people will not tell you. If you buy land from me, they'll not tell you the difference between why you now need a consent, which is the government consent that I was talking about. If you buy, so now I just want to use the opportunity to wrap up to explain both the certificate of occupancy and as well the government consent. A CFO can only be issued once on just a single name. Let's say I'm Mr. Hay. I applied for a CFO documentation and it was approved on my name for that particular portion, the land size, the expanse of land. There is no way Mr. B, let's say I now sell to Mr. B, there is no way Mr. B can process another CFO on that particular portion of land that will not be this land belongs to Mr. B. So you now ask me then, if I now buy, so what happens? That is when a government consent is now required. What you do in order to perfect that documentation, as soon as you are purchasing from me, Mr. Hay, who has the right, who is the right ownership for now on that CFO documentation. As soon as I hand over all the rights to you as a new owner, you now go and process a governance consent on that same document. So the governors will now consent that this land that belongs to Mr. A is now for Mr. B. So now it means that the government consent can actually override a CFO. So if you ask me, to say, government consent is higher than the CFO, but it now depends on the documentation. It means I have to give you the proper documentation that to prove that this land was for me, but I've sold it, and that is how you can now go and do a government consent. If you don't have the proper documentation to prove that I, whose name is Mr. B, I have not sold it to you, you just go ahead and say, okay, because you have one leg, you want to go and process the government consent, you know that definitely we are going to end it at the courts. So, which is the court judgment. That is why court judgment is also a title, which is legal as well. So we have to go and prove where did you get your governor's consent when there is no documentation to prove that I, who owns the CFO, sold it to you. And for the court judgment, it simply means when there's a dispute amongst two buyers, probably individuals to individual, companies to company, even individual and government. So you could just simply, instead of trying to use your fist, just take it to the court of law, and when the court of law rules in anyone's favor, the person becomes the rightful owner of that property. And that is why court judgment also is a very good title. It's a good title. So once you get the judgment, it becomes the rightful owner. So I begin to wrap up now. I don't want you to miss the next class, because I'll be showing you the key areas, telling the key areas you must not buy real estate property in Lagos, Nigeria, especially in places like Ekpe and Ebejileki. I sign out now. Thanks for watching this video. Please share this video, and as well click the subscribe link, so that every other time that I make a video, you'll be the first to get my video. Thanks for watching.